Chapter 7. Recording number 3. Immanuel Sananda. Tuesday, August 8th, 1989, 1 p.m., Year 2, Day 357. Thank you, Dharma. Let us continue, for we have much to cover. At this time, we will consider another subject which comes under much discussion and is totally misunderstood and arranged, most conveniently by human rules. It is the matter of what you call the Sabbath day. The Sabbath day. One day, as Immanuel and some of his disciples walked through a field of corn, the disciples pulled out some of the ears from the corn stalks and ate of them. Always there were the hangers-on who followed to spy on Immanuel and his disciples. I believe it to be much like your newsprint reporters who give no peace to your notable ones of today. At any rate, when the Pharisees saw that the disciples had pulled forth the corn, they spoke to Immanuel. "Behold, your disciples are doing something that is unlawful on the Sabbath day." But he responded, "Have you not read what David did when he and those who were with him were hungry? When he went into the house of God and ate the bread exhibited there which they were not supposed to eat, neither they who were with him, but which only the priests were allowed to eat? So be it. Or have you not read in the book of laws that the priests enter into the temple on the Sabbath day, yet they are without guilt? Verily I say to you, you generation of vipers, a stone will turn into bread before no work may be done on the Sabbath day. The law that the Sabbath day be kept holy is only a man-made law, without logic, and so are many of the man-made laws which are contrary to the laws of the creation. False prophets and distorters of the Scriptures are those who are guilty of these foolish and false laws which contradict the laws of the creation and of nature. Thus the law of man is to keep the Sabbath day holy and not to work on that day. A law which escapes logic is a law resulting from false teaching of the human spirit. Verily I say unto you, no day is more holy than any other day, albeit labeled Sabbath, and no law commands that no work be done on the Sabbath day. How is it ye establish which is the Sabbath day? Does the cow know she is not to give her milk on the Sabbath day? Do not the farm animals need of food and nurturing on the Sabbath? The cycle of nature does not stop because of the Sabbath, and therefore the law of man is foolish indeed. Nay, the Sabbath day is a day like any other day, in which the daily chores may be done, and in fact must be done, that responsibilities are not shirked, and unneeded suffering placed upon innocent creatures. Man has a will of his own, and he is also the Lord of the Sabbath day, as it was written in the old Scriptures and laws, which were not adulterated by false prophets, distorters, and Pharisees. Thereafter he went on and entered into their synagogue, where he continued to teach the people. And behold, there came a man with a withered hand, and they asked him, saying, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath day?" This they asked in order to build of a case against him. He responded to them, "You hypocrites! If you had eyes, ears, and understanding, you could see, hear, and understand. But you are blind and without understanding, for you lack the knowledge to see, hear, and understand nature, and you also lack the enlightenment regarding the laws of the creation to enable you to see, hear, and understand that the creation does not keep the Sabbath day holy. Every day the creation turns the stars in the sky, controlling the sun, the winds, and the rains, and feeding all creatures upon the earth. The waters run in their channels, and everything takes its natural course, on this Sabbath day, as on the next Sabbath day, as it was created by the creation. But is not man more than all creatures and plants, since he is Lord above them all, when he adheres to the true laws? You generation of serpents, you distorters of the Scriptures, who, because of your own greed for money and power, spread false teachings. Who among you, if he is a single sheep, and it falls into a hole on the Sabbath day, would not seize it and pull it out? How much more does a man count than does a sheep, and your deceitful and false teachings?" Then he spoke to the man with the withered hand and useless hand. "Stretch out your hand." And he stretched it out, and it was whole again. The Pharisees went out and again took counsel as to how they could murder Immanuel, since he exposed their lies and false teachings, and more so, did so in front of all the people. When Immanuel heard these intentions, he went away. Many followed him, and he healed all who were in need of healing. He petitioned them to keep their silence, for he feared that he would be captured and would needs suffer the death of a martyr. He did, however, continue uninhibited to go about the land teaching and revealing wisdom to the people of all the lands in which he ventured. Dharma, let us have a break here, for I wish separation of this segment from the next. The following portion is most personal to me, Judas Iscariot, and I wish it to hold example unto you ones. Salut, I take my leave for this portion. Chapter 8, Recording Number 4, Iscariot, Immanuel Sananda, Tuesday, August 8th, 1989, 2:15 p.m., Year 2, Day 357. Judas Iscariot. It came to pass in time that Immanuel and his disciples went to Bethlehem, where he continued teaching and demonstrating his teaching to the people. I, Judas Iscariot, was among the disciples, but I think it far more appropriate to simply relate from the scrolls rather than comment to any great extent, for it is truly so personal and sacred unto me. Justice is a strange bedfellow, brethren. It always finds its balance in perfection. So be it. Judas Iscariot had become disloyal to the teaching of Immanuel, and he followed only his desires. He secretly gathered up among the listeners of Immanuel gold, silver, and copper in his money bag, so that he could idly indulge in his lifestyle. But it came to pass that Judah Iscariot, the son of the Pharisee, Simon, informed Immanuel of the abuses of Judas Iscariot, because he hoped he would be paid for this information. Immanuel thanked him, but did not pay him with any gifts, so that Judah Iscariot thought greatly of revenge, for he was greedy for gold, silver, and goods of material worth. Immanuel responded to the information and led Judas Iscariot into the desert, where he was taught by Immanuel for 3 days and 3 nights the concepts of right and wrong, so that the disciple repented and soon followed again the teachings in a most careful manner. And therefore, when they returned to the city, he distributed all of his belongings and the things he had gathered among the poor, and became a most faithful disciple and living example to the people. Judas Iscariot had been most faithful in the recording of the lessons and demonstrations as presented by Immanuel. However, it came to pass that all the scriptures were stolen from Judas, all the carefully scribed teachings and writings. He went forth to Immanuel and told him thereof. Immanuel rebuked him and said, Verily, verily, I tell you, Judas Iscariot, you will have to suffer far worse things than having been robbed of your writings about my teachings and my life. You will stand accused undeservedly of betraying me. This will last for over 2 millennia, because Simon the Pharisee will see that it is so. His son Judah Iscariot will the guilty culprit be? Will the be guilty culprit? Okay, typo. His son Judah Iscariot will be the guilty culprit, for he is like his father Simon Iscariot, a Pharisee, who wants to take my life. He is the one who has thieved the writings from you, and brought them to the scribes and the Pharisees, so that they can judge and kill me accordingly. He received 70 silver pieces for your writings, and he is to receive another 30 pieces of silver when he makes it possible to deliver me to the constable. Mark mine words from this day forward. He will most certainly succeed in doing that which he has been rewarded to do, and you, Judas Iscariot, will be blamed falsely, and will become a martyr, and this will stand unrebuked for 2 millennia. Now, put thy remorse aside, for you will write down my teachings, and all about my life a second time, and added unto it far into thy future. The time will come when your writings shall be revealed, that is, in 2 times 1,000 years, when it shall come to pass. Until that time my teachings will be falsified, and become an evil cult, and much human blood shall flow because of it. However, people are not ready yet to believe in my teachings and to recognize truth, nor is it time for the realization of the prophecies. Human mankind is not ready to receive truth. It will only be after 2 times 1,000 years that an insignificant man will come forth who will recognize my teachings as truth and disseminate it most courageously. He will be cursed by the cults that have arisen and the adherents of the false teachings, and be regarded as a liar, charlatan, and fraud. Even his life blood shall be spilled, as will that of his innocent family and friends. So shall it come to pass in that time of the prophet's predictions, when the final prophecies are coming to completion. But as for you, Judas Iscariot, you will be undeservedly reviled as a traitor, and will be condemned, for this is what the falsity of the priests and the ignorance of the people desire. But disregard this and continue in our mission, for the teaching of truth demands sacrifices of self-indulgence and personal displeasures. Know that thy name shall be cleared in its proper sequence. In their spirit and knowledge, people are not yet very developed, and they have to first suffer much guilt and make many, many additional mistakes before they will learn. They must gather knowledge and wisdom in order to recognize truth. Stay with me from now on, Judas. Follow me and fulfill your duty as a writer of my teachings faithful, which is the teaching of the laws of nature and thereby the original laws of the creation. No one's will is ever to exceed the will of the creation, which is revealed in the laws. The laws of the creation are good for yesterday and today, as well as for tomorrow, the day after, and for all times infinite. Thus, the laws are destined and thereby predestined for things of the future which will have to transpire. It will come to pass in the appropriate time of 2 millennia, you shall be given contact with one contracted upon earth to put thy truth to print, that thy name shall be cleared, and the teachings brought forth in purity, in order to fulfill the prophecies. You are beloved of me, and as with all within the creation, the cycle will flow forth and back in its timeless justice. Errors are made, but often it is through the errors that the prophecies can be in completion. So be it. And so be it, Dharma, for unto you this day I am humbly grateful. My life with the beloved God of truth and keeper of the laws, throughout the eons since Galilee, have been ever glorious, and my cup of joy has overflowed. It is no penalty to me, for I stand so honored to be allowed to share the closing of a cycle in such greatness. This one who is my God is also first my friend. Amen. I am ever in thy service. I am Judas of Iscariot. Chapter 9, Recording 5, Iscariot Immanuel Sananda. Tuesday, August 8th, 1989, 4:45 p.m., Year 2, Day 357. Why parables? In the same day that Immanuel spoke of these things of my accusing and deception, we went out from the town and walked along the shore of the sea. After a while we sat down where we might rest and be at peace for a respite. It was not to be, for when he sat down, many people gathered around him and pressed in so closely that he stepped out onto a boat ported nearby. He sat upon the cross-bench, and the people stood at the shore or sat upon the banks and sands. The master Immanuel spoke to them in parables about many things, and I shall attempt to reconstruct them as noted in the scrolls. He began by saying, "A sower went out to sow seeds for the crops. When he scattered the seeds, several seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds came and ate them. Several seeds fell on the rock, where there was not any earth in which they could take root. Later, several of the seeds burst forth with life, but the sun was standing high in the sky, and the seeds withered, for they had no place in which to place their roots. They withered and dried out. Some of the seeds fell under the thorn bushes, and the thorns grew and suffocated them. But some of the seeds fell on good land and bore abundant fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, and some 30-fold. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." One of the disciples went to him and asked, "Why do you speak to them in parables, since they do not understand your teaching?" He responded by saying, "It is given to you to understand the secrets of the Spirit, but to them it is not given. They do not listen to my words, but they live according to the false teachings of their scribes and Pharisees. Their spirit is ignorant and empty, and they first have to learn how to think. What would serve better to make them think, if not speaking in parables? Verily I say to you, the knowledge of truth is valuable and good only if obtained through one's own thinking and drawing conclusions from within, that is, the solution of the secrets which are told in parables whereby the visions might be created. Man is still of such little faith and without knowledge, and he is not yet aware of the laws of the creation and of the power of spirit. Therefore, first man must learn to recognize the truth, and thus also to live according to the law of the Spirit, and thusly he will become knowledgeable and powerful in his spirit. It is such that he who has, to him shall be given, so that he may have abundance. But he who does not have, from him will be taken even that which he has. Therefore I speak to them in parables. For with seeing eyes they do not see, and with hearing ears they do not hear, nor do they understand. In them will be fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which says, You will hear with ears and shall not understand it, and with seeing eyes you will see and not recognize it. For the heart of these people is hardened, and their ears hear evil, and their eyes are asleep, so they cannot see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and understand with their mind, and comprehend the truth and the laws of the creation that were given, so that thereby they would obtain help and knowledge. For the people of Israel turned away from the laws of the creation, and are unfortunate, and shall never find their place, or shall never find their peace. There shall always be the shedding of their blood, for they persistently trespass against the laws of the creation. They deem themselves above all the human races as the chosen people, and consider of themselves a separate race. This is malicious error, and also evil presumptuousness. For inasmuch as Israel was never a nation, nor a race, and thus could not be a chosen race by whatever definition. Deserting all the laws of the creation, Israel is a mass of people with an unglorious past, characterized by murder and arson, as allowed by the cult laws set forth by the leaders. It is, however, destined that they will not be alone in their false journey. There are only a few fathers in the mass of these ones that have an honorable past and can truly trace their lineage. They, however, do not belong to the generation of cunning foxes who have sold themselves to the false Jewish faith, to the false faith, and the teachings that they took over from Moses, who in turn has stolen them from the Egyptians. These beloved few patriarchs are believers of truth and knowledge, and they recognize only the laws of the creation. These blessed ones have become so few in number, they can be counted on but one hand of fingers, for they are persecuted and slain, just as with John. Herod sent ones forth, and had John beheaded while in prison. Oh, they are in no wise wise, and act most foolishly in their arrogance. Blessed are your eyes, that they see, and your ears, that they hear. Verily I say to you, many prophets and just men have desired to see that which you see, and have not seen it, and to hear that which you hear, and have not heard it. Many have passed into their graves in the searching and persecution through the aeons of time, but theirs shall be the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, listen carefully to this parable of the sower. If one hears the word of truth of the Spirit and of the laws and does not understand it, the wicked one comes and tears away what has been sown in his mind. It is he on whose path the seed has been planted. Where the seed has been dropped upon the rocks, it is he who hears the word and soon embraces it with joy. But he has no roots in himself, so that it could be rooted firmly, and he will bend in the winds and blow easily from the fields. In the case of discomfort and any type of ridicule or harassment, he becomes angry and takes his leave. Those ones by whom the seeds are planted among the thorns, that is, when he hears the word, he cares of the world and the delusion of material riches and security of self, chokes the truth and the knowledge, and he brings forth no fruit, for he cannot allow himself to reach out beyond the bondage. Now let us consider the one by whom the seed has been planted on good soil, who attempts the word and seeks truth and finds it, and then lives according to the laws of the truth, lets the fruit grow and ripen, and brings forth a rich harvest indeed, one bearing 100-fold, the other 60-fold, and the other 30-fold. Indeed, a grand investment of thine assets. This is the meaning of the parable whose secrets have to be uncovered by men, so that they learn to think and find understanding. But the path that leads to wisdom and truth is long, and so is the compliance with the laws of the creation, which is yet so obvious. Then he told them the other parable. The spiritual kingdom is like a man who planted good seeds in his field. But when he slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the good fruit, and went silently away. When the seeds grew and brought forth fruit, weeds also grew in equal abundance. The servants went to the fields, and saw the weeds, and came to the sower, and said to him, Lord, did you not plant good seeds in your field? From where come the weeds? He responded, An enemy did this. And the servants said, Do you want us to go and pull the weeds from the fields? The sower answered, No, lest ye pull out the good plants along with the weeds. Let both grow together until the time of harvest. And then I shall tell the cutters, First gather the weeds and tie them in bundles so that they can be burned, and the ashes strewn over the field to nourish the soil. But gather the good fruit and lay it up in my barn. But behold, said Immanuel, both grew side by side, the weeds and the good fruit. The weeds somewhat hinder the full growth of the good fruit, but later the weeds will become compost and nourish the soil. Therefore, since good fruit needs nourishment in order to grow, if it was not for the weeds which are made into nourishment, the fruit could not grow unto perfection and abundance. Then Immanuel told them another parable. The spiritual kingdom is like heaven, which a woman took and mixed among 3 bushels of flour until it was thoroughly leavened. Heaven. The spiritual kingdom is like leaven, which a woman took and mixed among 3 bushels of flour until it was thoroughly leavened. And thus did Immanuel talk to the people in parables, but he did not talk ever without using parables, so that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet who had said, He will open his mouth in parables, and will voice that which was hidden from the beginning of the world, so that the people may learn therefrom and find truth, and recognize and follow the laws. Let he who has ears hear. The spiritual kingdom is like a hidden treasure in the field which a man found and hid, and rejoicing in it, he went to sell everything he had to buy the field. And likewise the spiritual kingdom is like a merchant who searched for precious pearls, and when he found one, he went and sold all that he had and bought the pearl. And again, the spiritual kingdom is like a fish net that was cast into the sea to catch all kinds of species. But when it was filled, they pulled it ashore, sat and gathered the good fish into vessels, and threw the useless fish away. Such is the spiritual kingdom, which rules in man, and whose king is man himself. Therefore, pay heed to the parables, and learn to solve their secrets, so that you may learn to think and recognize the laws of the creation and follow them. Did you understand all I have told you? And they answered, Yes. And he continued, saying, Therefore, every scribe who has become a disciple of the spiritual knowledge and the spiritual kingdom is like the father of the household who finds in his treasures the things both old and new. After Immanuel had finished these parables, he went away. Later, a prophet gets no respect. Later, he went into his father's city, Nazareth, and taught in the synagogue, and the people were shocked, and they said, How did he come by such wisdom? And how can he do such mighty works? Is he not the carpenter Joseph's son, whose wife became pregnant by a guardian angel's son? Is not his mother's name Mary? Are not his brothers Judas, Joseph, Simon, and Jacob? And his sisters, are they not all here with us? Where does he get all the wisdom and power for his deeds? They were much offended by him, and threatened to turn him over to the courts. But Immanuel said, A prophet is never esteemed less than in his own country, and in his own house, which will become true for all the future. And as long as man has little faith, and follows the false teachings of the scribes and other misinterpreters of the truth, and it will become true in 2 times 1,000 years, when man has become aware and thinking that my real, unfalsified teaching will be revealed anew. In 2,000 years, a new prophet. The new prophet of that faraway future time will not have that much power and strength over the evil and of disease, but his knowledge will include mine, and his revelations about my real teaching will shake up the structure of the whole earth, because at this time the world will be inundated by my teachings, which have been distorted and falsified by the scribes, and the earth will live in a false cult which will bring it death. Before the 2 times 1,000 years are past, a new prophet will reveal my unfalsified teaching in small groups, as I teach in small groups my trusted friends and disciples, the wisdom and knowledge of the laws of the creation. And it shall not be given to know until that time whether it shall be that the prophet is of male or female. That one's path will be beset with difficulties and obstacles, for he will start his mission in a peace-loving country in the north, where there is a strong false cult of my teachings that have been falsified by distorters. In that place he did not show any great signs of his powers, and did not publicize his great knowledge because of disbelief. It is noted that his powers shall be hidden even from his own eyes, that he might not misunderstand his path. There will come forth several blessed ones, who will take the truth and give it forth unto the world, and the celestial sons of the heavens will give proof and credence unto the words. So be it, for such is it written, that in the final days distant, those ones shall prevail in the name and truth of the creation. And thus shall it come to pass, in the generation of 2 times 1,000 years, that these things shall come into fulfillment. Enough for this day, Dharma, for we have worked long and diligently. I grant you rest and peace, little one, for thy task is one of great responsibility. Ye have ones of greatness and filled with love, who will give unto thee the support ye need. So be it, and I place of mine seal upon the writings of mine beloved, Judas, that they become into thy world in clarity and purity. Adonai, and praise be unto Solen Am Solen, that this time has arrived, that our works might come into fulfillment. I am that I am. I am Sananda. Chapter 10. Recording 1. Iskarioth Immanuel Sananda. Wednesday, August 9th, 1989, 7 a.m., Year 2, Day 358. Greetings in radiance, Dharma, for another wondrous day has been given unto you by the creation. Treasure each of the gifts, for you have some unpleasant ones to come. So be it. Do not fail to witness the flowers and gifts along the path. I will surrender the alternation frequency to Judas Iskarioth, that we not take too much time in idle chatter, for your hands tire quickly enough, and the time span is short for having this translation finished. Enjoy the honor, however, for it is a great benevolence to allow an entity to clear of his false legacy and set a record to correctness. Blessings are upon you ones who receive at earth physical plane and set the dictation to permanent record. There will come a day in the twinkling of the universal eye when man shall find these words which will be ancient, and again, a world will be changed, for it is experienced to be so. Salut, little sparrow. I grant you strength and accuracy, that you concern not about it. Thank you in graciousness. Judas here to continue through the scrolls. Do not expect the original scrolls, which are in mine hands, to be brought in the original contact, other than perhaps that you and a very limited few can view them. They would be taken and most quickly destroyed by man. However, ye shall be given thy credence and credentials, that thy writings be known as truth. May we do well this day, is my quest. Herod and the Baptist. During the time that Immanuel dwelled in Nazareth, news about him reached Herod. Great speculation had arisen in the land, and Herod was most distressed, and told the people, "This surely must be John the Baptist. He has arisen from the dead. Therefore he does possess great and mighty powers." Herod had seized John, bound him, and put him into prison because of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philippus, and subsequently had him beheaded. It had happened that John had reprimanded Herod, saying, "It is not good that you have taken Herodias, for you have committed adultery with her. and you have to be punished according to the law." At that moment, he would like to have killed the Baptist, but was afraid of the people, for they considered him to be a prophet. However, when Herod celebrated his birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced before him, and it pleased him greatly. He was most lustful of her, and in his foolishness he made an unlawful oath that he would give unto her whatever she would demand of him. The young girl acted according to her mother's demands, and responded, "Bring me the head of John the Baptist on a platter of silver." But the daughter of Herodias wept when she said it, for she dearly loved John the Baptist, and fully believed in his teachings. The king Herod was glad that Herodias had persuaded her daughter to demand the head of John, because this way he would not be guilty in the eyes of the people, inasmuch as he had given an oath. But Herodias' daughter did not realize that Herod and her mother had agreed, even before the dance, to demand the head of John the Baptist through her. She thought it some type of banter to be enjoyed at the celebration festival. However, Herod immediately sent soldiers and had John beheaded within the prison. And his head was carried on a silver platter and given to the young girl. The girl was overwhelmed with grief, and she kissed the forehead of the head that had been severed. She cried bitterly and said, "I did not know that love could taste so bitter." Then she took John's head to her mother and placed it mockingly at her feet. The disciples of John then came and took the body from the prison and buried it. They then searched out Immanuel and told him what had happened. Then Immanuel heard this. When Immanuel heard this, he was overcome with anxiety, for his work was not yet finished, and he feared the same fate prematurely. So he went away on a light ship into a deserted area. When the people heard of this, they followed him on foot from the cities. But as Immanuel saw the crowds gathered from a distance, he felt great sorrow for them, and entered into a boat from across the water, and came unto them. He went ashore and healed the sick and infirm. I'm going to stop it there in the middle of a chapter. God bless all who are hearing this. May you pass all of your tests with flying colors. Amen.